Gardening is a process, not a project, because I've done many, many pollinator gardens in my lifetime. Everybody wants to do the pollinator garden, but then it's not over. There's things to do, but it's totally worth it. Hi, I'm Monika Maeckle, and we're down here on Arsenal Street in downtown San Antonio, right across from HEB World Headquarters. I'm the author of the recently published Plants with Purpose, 25 Ecosystem Multitaskers, and I'm also the founder and ongoing writer for the Texas Butterfly Ranch and other nature writings. And we're going to get a quick tour of my garden here. We started building this house, I think, in 2013. It's an empty lot. We have a little casita in the back, and we built that first, and my parents, who were pretty elderly then and are no longer with us, may they rest in peace, they moved into the casita, and then we built this house. So when we built this house, this was the first time in my life that I had a blank slate in terms of landscaping. In every other situation, I've inherited a lawn or some other situation and had to reboot it. But this was really cool because I got to start from scratch, and I worked really closely with Charles Bartlett and Albert Del Rio of Greenhaven Landscaping, who are very knowledgeable and very competent and very lovely people. But the way that we did it was I put cardboard down all over the entire yard, and I had a couple guys help me with that. One of the big lessons I learned along the way is if you use cardboard, go to a bike store or an appliance center, and they have these huge boxes. If you're going to do something like this, so you don't have just little boxes you have to piece together, and always take the tape off, because honestly, it's been 10 years since I did this garden, and sometimes I'll dig up and I'll get a piece of tape, of plastic tape, and it's pretty depressing to think about that tape lives that long. But in any case, I was on board with the pollinator garden already by then, and so it was really fun to be able to transplant a lot of plants from our ranch on the Llano River and bring them out here. And one of those plants, for example, is frog fruit, which is this plant right here. And this plant actually grows at our ranch. You can buy it at most nurseries. It's an incredible ground cover, and one of the cool things about it is that it can take flooding, but then it dries up, and maybe the flowers will dry up, but then it comes back. You can also weed whack it. It's also the host plant, I believe, to the crescent, but several butterflies. So this plant is definitely a plant with purpose. It has lots of extra functions in the ecosystem, and is incredibly resilient and appropriate for our climate. Another cool thing that was really fun about this project was it was funny how even back then I was thinking about how plants work in the ecosystem, and so built this house. We bought all this brand new lawn furniture here for the porch, and that's an alley, and I was a little concerned, oh man, somebody's going to just pull up in the alley and steal our furniture, because here we are downtown. So Charles Bartlett, who I was working with, he was a former botanist for the Department of Defense for the U.S. government, and he was tasked with landscaping, defense facilities, including nuclear plants. And one of the things he turned me on to was this plant, which is a Citrus trifoliata, and it's basically a member of the citrus family, but it has these incredible spear-like thorns on it, which is considered defensive landscaping. And so I have never had a problem with anybody jumping over my fence, because this guy is going to keep them back. Turks cap is an awesome plant for shade, and all the fruits and the flowers are edible. And I actually have a recipe in my book of Turks cap pancakes, where you make pancakes, you put the dough in, you make the circle, and then you put these beautiful little red flowers on the side that's not cooked, and then you flip them and cook them, and then they kind of caramelize, and then when you turn them over, you have this beautiful, sort of cool looking, tasty, unusual, kind of novel pancake. And of course kids love that stuff. I love that stuff too. Another really cool plant that I brought from our ranch is cowpen daisy. And cowpen daisy is in the aster family, and this plant is the host plant to the border patch butterfly. Just prolific, it makes these seed heads. The middle, obviously, of the aster turns into seeds, and there's probably about, I think I counted them once, I think it's like 75 seeds per head. Wow. And so when this plant goes to seed, it sprays the seeds all over the place, and you have it everywhere. And depending on your point of view, that can be a good thing or a bad thing, but I like a plant that does its thing, and I can decide later if I don't have to keep planting it. Mm-hmm. You can pull them out really easily. Awesome plant, easy to grow, beautiful, continues to give.
Is that an annual or a perennial?
It's an annual.
Annual.
It's an annual, but it feels like perennial because it comes back twice as thick every year. It's been 10 years now, because we put the yard in 2015, and here we are 2025, so we're going on year 10, and I have pictures of then and now, and it's like completely different. And as I always like to say, gardening is a process, not a project. I mean, there was a huge tree right here. There's a huge tree right there. We just planted this, I believe it's a Monterey oak, in place of the 2 trees that went, because this is a very hot, sunny spot, and we kind of got spoiled by the shade, and we all need more shade in San Antonio. So this guy's been taking off pretty good. I don't know where this linden, this is an elderberry tree, and I don't know where it came from. I brought it in from somewhere, and it just sprouted all these little seedlings. Now that the oak's here, it's shading out the linden, the elderberry, and it'll probably take over. But elderberries are really cool too. Beautiful white flowers, and you can make all kinds of cool stuff out of it. I think you can eat the berries, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and make jam and shrubs and jelly and all kinds of good stuff. Here's my favorite plant, Jimson weeds. I brought one of these from the ranch. I have it all over my yard now. You can see these are the beautiful white trumpet-like flowers that bloom at night. They're going to shut down for the daytime here, but they bloom at night. These are the awesome seed pods. Every part of this plant is toxic, so you don't want to eat it. Dogs know better, and it does have kind of a strong smell. I think it smells like chocolate. A lot of people say they don't like the smell, but I think it's really cool. Tons of history about this plant. It was one of the first examples of ethnobotanical warfare in Jamestown, Virginia, when the British came over to take back the United States in the 1770s. The colonists in Jamestown had heard about this plant and learned about this plant from the indigenous people. And so they made a stew out of Jimson weed and fed it to the British, and the British got really sick and out of their minds. It's kind of a psychedelic and honestly can be fatal, so don't think about experimenting. And it gave them about a week or 10 days to sort of plot and plan their battle strategy, and it became known as Jamestown weed and eventually Jimson weed. Even earlier, this plant was known by indigenous peoples as a power bundle. And there's actually etchings in caves down at the Devil's River of people holding these beautiful pods and reaching up to the gods in a kind of spirit of communication and connection. And archaeologists and others believe that they probably used it like peyote, but they knew what to do with it and had are wise about it. So again, do not experiment. But it's an incredible plant. It's also the host plant to the sphinx moth, which is super cool. And I've walked at night, or I love planting it along a walkway because you'll come home at night and just get this lovely waft of this gorgeous smell. Most plants that bloom at night are typically white and have a strong fragrance to sort of attract pollinators, and this one definitely fits that bill. Things can get out of control, and you have to decide for yourself how much rambunctiousness you're willing to put up with. But this is a passion flower vine, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is Corona de Cristo, Christ's crown. And the reason it's called that is, the flowers are just about to bust out. I don't really have a good example here, but there's a Father, Son, and Holy Ghost parts of the flower. And then it produces this cool red fruit, which the cardinals seem to really love. I was actually standing on my back porch. I have this plant growing up my screen porch, and the cardinal was coming up and trying to peck it off because inside are all these gelatinous seeds, which of course is a source of protein, and you can eat it. It doesn't have a huge amount of flavor, but it's a great garnish. Make a shrub, you can make lots of stuff. You need a lot of it to mash it down, because it's mostly air and that gelatinous stuff and the seeds, but it's just cool. And it's also the host plant to the Gulf fritillary. So there was a Gulf fritillary here just a minute ago, the orange and black butterfly that is often confused with monarchs, but this one also can be very rambunctious, and you can see how it's kind of taken over. We're going to be cutting this back because it's kind of choking this guy out. And you do have to manage certain plants, and depending on the weather, we had some awesome rain. If the plants are busting out, we're going to get our hot spell here, and everything will be burnt back. But yeah, and another plant that I brought from our ranch is goldenrod. And some people have issues with goldenrod, that it's overly rambunctious, that it takes over. But I have to say, I kind of just feel like I'd rather have this living mulch. I mean, it's easy to pull out, especially after a rain. You just pull it out. You don't want it, it's fine. Pull it out, plant something here, and I've done that too, where maybe I'll pull out a circle and I'll put a tomato plant in. You do have to manage it, or you can just let it go if you just want to goldenrod carpet. You can also weed whack it and it'll come back. I found that if you cut it back 3 times, it gets very stunted and the flowers start to look a little weird, but you know, hey. This is another awesome plant that I brought from the ranch. I love this plant. This is called frostweed, and interestingly, it has these sort of winged edges to it, which is kind of cool. Beautiful white flower, typically blooms in the fall. But the coolest thing about this plant is at the first freeze, the plant falls over and the phloem from the plant oozes out of the plant and makes these beautiful crystals, like ice crystals. So if you have this plant in your yard and you happen to be there when it freezes for the first time in the year, then go out and look, and all the plants will be just flopped over and there'll be these gorgeous ice crystals. There's all kinds of photos online. I've written about it on my website at the Texas Butterfly Ranch, but it's a super cool plant. Monarchs love this plant. Migrating butterflies and other insects love the plant, and the seeds are welcomed by birds. We planted this redbud tree, which I kind of like these smaller undergrowth trees because they give you some shade, but they also provide enough sun to where underneath things can grow. If you get too much shade, you're going to have to choose very specific plants that only do well in shade, and that's not my favorite situation. I mean, I love shade, and we need shade in San Antonio for sure, but you just have to be thoughtful about it. I mean, we did have a very specific plan, but I mean, the yard kind of evolved and became its own personality, and I'm fine with that. I find it, you know, sort of exciting. Like, you just go out and see what's going on. And like I said before, you know, I have kind of this little trail where I come out and I do this little circle, and I go, okay, how's everybody doing? Who needs water? Are there any caterpillars I need to check out? Just, you know, it's a very vibrant and alive space. So I'll just be out here looking around and go, oh, wow, look at that. This plant's really interesting. This is lamb's quarters. And somebody, Rachel Sinwinski, I don't know if I should curse you or bless you, she gave me this plant. I was like, oh, cool, it's native, it's cool, it's got a lot of seeds, it's in the amaranth family, and I planted one, and I just let it go, and it got about 8 feet tall, and then the flowers bursted out with these seeds, and now this plant is coming up everywhere, and I've been very mindful of cutting it back because I don't want it to go to seed again. I feel like I've got a seed bank full of this plant, and probably enough to last me a lifetime, but very cool plant. You can eat this. You can eat it raw, like put it in a salad. You can, you know, cook it like mustard greens. This is a super cool plant, Hoja Santa. It's actually a root beer plant. And I think I planted like 2 of these. And what's cool about it, it likes shade. I mean, this one probably gets 4 hours of sun as the sun moves across here, but it's mostly in the shade, loves shade, has a huge tuberous root, and like that window there's a big bench inside, and I like to sit, I lay on that bench and I write or I check my email, and then I can look up under and see, you know, the Hoja Santa forest. There's some kind of caterpillar, I don't know exactly what it is, but there's some kind of caterpillar that hosts on this, because I've seen this little black caterpillar and I haven't been able to figure out which one it is. I believe this plant is technically not native to Texas, but it is native to northern Mexico, and I have it in this contained space. But a lot of this plant is edible, and my friend Elizabeth Johnson, who runs Farm Table, when this plant starts to, you know, get a little overly excited and, you know, reaches in. This is our pathway, and you can see, I mean, talk about life finds a way. I didn't plant these guys in the crack of the bricks. They just came up, and, you know, the water runs in there, and I mean, I can cut them back and they come right back. But this plant freezes to the ground in the winter and then it comes back robustly in the spring. And after we had this amazing rain a couple weeks ago, I mean, this plant just exploded. But Elizabeth likes to she makes syrups. They use this like a tamale wrapper. They make root beer out of it. So this plant is amazing. Really, really cool plant. And for a shady spot like this, it's just a lovely choice. A lot of the time it comes down to who can compete. Conditions in the yard change. Certain plants have advantages and push out the other ones, and that can be annoying because, like, you know, I came and cleaned this up yesterday because I planted all these pollinator plants in here, bee balm, marigold, herbs, and the Jimson weed has just taken off like a rocket and is choking out a bunch of those plants by not allowing the sun to hit, and so I went and cut it back. And this has been a very challenging space for me because we sit at our countertop in there and eat breakfast or whatever, and we look out at the bird feeder and the bird bath, and you want to see cool stuff, right? But because of this eave, when it rains, this part of the yard does not get any rain. And so then this part gets full sun for a couple of hours, and then this part has a different, so you have 3 different little situations here. And I've been experimenting for the last 10 years. I even tried to put zoysia grass in here. So, okay, fine, I'm gonna have like a space where the dogs can roll. And half of the yard took, the yard that got more sun and the other half didn't. So it's an evolving process. We're still going. This is where I kind of plant, you know, I had parsley, I had fennel, I had basil, my herbs. The parsley, as you may or may not know, is a host plant to the swallowtail, and it's going to flower now. You can eat these flower pods. You can put them in a salad, put them on pasta. But yeah, that's going to be gone soon. Got mint. And this is prairie parsley. This is a really cool wild parsley that I brought from the ranch. It's a super cool plant. Same thing, host plant to the swallowtail, but when it gets super hot like we've had, it doesn't do that well. This is what I was talking about with the passion flower vine. The cardinal was trying to get in here and, you know, hold on to this and peck on the seeds, and it's kind of fun because we can sit there in our bedroom and watch the cardinals come. This is going all the way up there, and by Christmas, this is going to be covered in passion flower vine. And a lot of times I'll cut those red fruits off and I'll use them like to make a wreath or something because it's like green and red, you know, holiday colors. So that's pretty fun. Let's see what else we got. I did want to show you. This is the native almond verbena that my sons gave me as a gift after we kind of discovered that plant. But this is the native one, which I think I planted about 2 years ago, and it's just going like gangbusters. It has such a great scent, and the bees love it.
It looks almost like a kidney wood.
Yes.
Just about.
I think it might be, actually.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
Oh.
And we had a little bit of I had a big, huge spiderwort community here, and spiderwort is definitely going in plants with purpose volume 2. And if anybody has any suggestions for plants with purpose volume 2, if you have a plant that you think meets the criteria of being not only beautiful, but useful to the environment, to people, to animals, defensive landscaping, cool backstory, please get in touch with me. I had spiderwort here, and it all died back, so I pulled it out, and now we got a little bit of a blank spot. But now it's getting so hot, I'm not sure I want to really plant anything because we're going into deep summer mode, and I'm going to be gone a lot. Don't have a sprinkler system, so hand watering can be a challenge, and I typically have to get somebody to come here and like, hey, can you go water on Mondays when it's my day? But I do want to point out that plant back there with those little sort of dangly fruits. This is pokeweed, and this is something that Charles recommended. I was not familiar with this plant, and I haven't actually utilized it much. My understanding is this is what poke salad Annie. It's made out of the salad, apparently. But I think you have to boil it 3 times before you can eat it. But the birds love this plant. I mean, you'll have birds all over this. They're going to turn red, or whitish red, I believe. I believe red, yeah. And the birds are going to come and just eat them all up. So again, we have a ton of wildlife in this yard. It's a great destination for possums, raccoons. Yes, we probably have some rodents. I haven't seen any. This is my goldenrod bed that I was talking about, where literally I weed whack this if I want, and when I want to plant some tomatoes or something, I pull it out. I did want to just mention, like, this part of the yard, I don't maintain it very aggressively. This is all Turks cap. Turks cap blooms on new growth. So I can literally come in here and weed whack this if I want to, but this is under pretty serious shade. Even when the sun's setting, it's not getting a lot of sun here. So even when the sun's over here in the west, it's not getting a lot of sun. So we got this, and we also have frostweed here. Frostweed loves being under trees. And we got the coral berry going on as well, and the pigeonberry. So yeah, but this is if anybody needs Turks cap, let me know. I've got lots of Turks cap. Another really cool plant, prone to pollinator plants and butterfly plants. But this is a really cool sort of understory plant, pipevine, which is the host plant of the pipevine swallowtail. I don't see any caterpillars on here, but that's a good one. And this alamo vine is a native, but it is incredibly rambunctious. And as I would say in the context of Plants with a Purpose, is an uninvited guest at the dinner party and drinks all the great wine and eats all the great desserts. And I find myself constantly pulling it out, but I know it serves a lot of insects and birds and other purposes. But I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence about Alamo vine, as is Alamo vine itself, because it's constantly growing on fences. I was wondering, I asked my friend Lee Marlowe, who's kind of my go-to plant resource. She's an ecologist for the River Authority and the president of Native Plant Society. She really knows her plants. Because I see this plant, this is snail seed vine, and these berries turn bright red, and I was like, oh man, let's make it tart. I was like, no, poisonous, you don't want to eat this, but the birds love it. It's not poisonous to birds. I mean, but this plant, just, it's helping itself. Obviously, if you find it annoying, if you cut it at the root, everything's going to turn brown and it'll die, and you'll be shocked at how this plant is like woven itself around other plants. Like you can see right there where I cut back some aloe vine, all that brown is from the plant like invading all these other spaces and sort of choking it. And so you do have to be on top of that, but it keeps you engaged in your garden and really makes you sort of look closely at what's going on and understand, and also I find it incredibly intriguing and interesting to sort of research these plants. I started doing this in like 2005. We lived in Alamo Heights and I had a big lawn, and I was just starting to kind of get engaged in the monarch butterfly migration, which I wrote a book about that called The Monarch Butterfly Migration, Its Rise and Fall. And that was the beginning of my journey, and I thought, hey, I'm going to take just a piece of our front yard and I'm going to, like a corner, like maybe like this much, which would be what, like 10 by 20 or something. And I did the cardboard mulch thing where cut everything to the ground as low as possible, get your weed whacker and get as low as the ground, then water it, cover with cardboard, water the cardboard, then put the mulch on top, and then just everything underneath there is going to die. It won't die permanently, but it will definitely die. And then when you want to plant something, you can just go cut a hole in the cardboard and put the plant in. And then it doesn't have to compete with all the weeds and all the grass and everything that was there before.
All right, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Before we wrap up, I wanted to shout out Monika Maeckle's excellent book one more time, Plants with Purpose. I highly recommend picking up a copy if you're interested in native plants that do more than just look good. And speaking of plants with purpose, standing here with one of the featured subjects in her book, The Common Sunflower. Definitely want you to dig into that story. A lot more to this plant than you may first see, just besides its beauty and resilience and ubiquitous nature here in at least the San Antonio area. So if you enjoyed this tour, be sure to check out another garden video tour that I put together recently with the Beacon Hill Community Garden with landscape designer Luke Hoy. You'll get some great ideas there as well. And if you're ready to start your own native plant journey, I put together a free email mini course to help you get going with Texas native plant landscaping. You can sign up anytime at ensembletexas.com/txnative. That will be also linked in the description below. All right, y'all, thanks again. I'll see you in the next one.